As officials hammered out details of that nuclear accord with Iran, investors started making some assessments of their own. And here's what they're seeing. A large country with low debt, lots of oil, and plenty of room to grow. But is the world ready to do business with Iran? Greylock Capital CEO Hans Humes traveled to Tehran to get some answers. He joins us now in studio with Bloomberg's Katya Porzakansky, who has been following this story. Hans, before I get to you, Katya, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? Do investors have the appetite for this?
It seems like it. I mean, like you mentioned, it's a country with very low levels of debt. It's about 11% of GDP, which is really low. It's one of the lowest in the world, actually, according to the CIA. They have a lot of oil, and they have a very educated population. They have more people in university than in Switzerland, according to some education statistics. So it's a country that has a lot of promise, and especially when you look all over the developing world, you have a lot of places in turmoil. So it seems like something that when investors can eventually start to get in there, they would have appetite for.
Hans, Katya says they have promise, but a lot of the international community see Iran as international pariah. What did you see when you were there? What sense did you get?
I certainly saw the part of the country that people would see as an international pariah, but I would say the vast majority of the country, 80–90%, is incredibly well educated, eager to re-engage with the West, and frankly, the part of the country that is the international pariah, the hardliners, I think are the ones who are pushing the hardest within the country not to have the accord signed as well on their side. So what I see is a well-educated population. They speak English incredibly well. They're eager to reintegrate with the West and eager to do business, especially with the United States.
Okay, Katya, is this something that seems to get lost in that political back and forth between the U.S. and the Iranians, that disconnect between maybe what the government says and does and what the people of Iran want?
I mean, that sounds like it from what you've told me and our discussions about his travels there, and also some Iranians that I know. It definitely seems like what you hear in the U.S. and what's filtered through versus the people there, and the fact that they all speak English, right, and that they would probably have a love for some of the things that you were mentioning, some like franchises and things like of that nature. Sure, it sure sounds like it. Maybe Hans would know better.
Yeah, I mean, what is impressive, I went there really just as a way to kick the tires and get it. I had the opportunity, so I went there with my son. I actually went there with my travel agent who wanted to see what it'd be like as a tourist destination. And it was just amazing, the level of English ability on the street. People self-taught in English. They had never been to the United States, but learned in school and then watched movies, so they spoke English almost fluently. And then just you're showing the Frisbee now. These were all college students, no international people there, picked up the game, saw it was Western, and these were people who were either studying to be tour guides or plasma physicists who just were playing a co-ed sport in a country that didn't allow it, but doing it very willingly and reaching out and welcoming foreigners.
Where is the bulk of Iran's outstanding debt from?
Oh, I think they probably have old leftover bank loans from before the sanctions.
They also have just a lot of bilateral debt that they have just from other countries in Asia, and then commercial debt from banks within Iran, and they've never defaulted on a commercial bond ever.
Do we have any sense for both of you what the bond market appetite is going to be for Iran? Do we know?
Yeah, I mean, this is a country that has been off of everybody's radar screen for a long time, and I don't think people appreciate, how accessible it is culturally for the West. When they go there, they'll feel pretty comfortable. Very underlevered, and really a lot of borrowing capacity, sophisticated industries. They're going to borrow at very attractive rates when they first come to the market. So these things are going to be cheap when they first come out. They've got a lot of ability to issue, and they're going to issue cheap to attract buyers. They're not going to default. This is, it's going to be a very good investment when it comes to the market.
Do we have any idea of the experience that investors have had with Iranian debt?
Yeah, they had two bonds since the Islamic Revolution, or the Iranian Revolution in '79. They've had two bonds that were issued for about €1 billion, and they both matured. They paid them on time, and they used to trade pretty frequently. I spoke with a trader who used to trade them in London, and he said he traded them every day. So it seems like they had experience doing it, at least.
Hans, what are some of the challenges that Iran faces right now as it tries to re-engage and re-enter the global economy?
Well, I think the tensions they have are the sort of the competing centers of power that are running the country at this point. You've got the mullahs, you've got the hardliners, and you've got the reformists. And within the reformists under Rouhani are the industrialists who, in many instances, were there before the revolution. There's a jostling for power. I think the hardliners realize if they reintegrate as a country, they're going to start losing power. When they reintegrate, they're going to have a problem in that the people who manage the financial institutions are incredibly smart. I mean, these guys are really well educated, but they're pretty naive in terms of finance. So they're going to have to probably consolidate the commercial banking sector. They're probably going to have to work off some of the non-performing loans. And, frankly, just reopening SWIFT to reintegrate with a payment system internationally is going to take a bit of work.
Katya, any timetable when these changes might start happening, do we know?
I mean, I don't know if we have any idea. I mean, I think as soon as December, they can start.
It's going to be, there's going to be a step. The sanctions, as far as the United States are concerned, are going to be lifted probably after the rest of the international community. So, you know, you'll probably, one would hope, start seeing changes in 6 months, but it's going to take 2-3 years to transition.
I think one of the risks is they can always snap back. So if they ever find that they've, you know, broken the rules, they can, or any sort of violation, they can snap back, and any of the countries that have signed this can snap their own one back, and then. If you have a situation where these bonds are already trading, I mean, what does that mean, right? You can't.
I think they've got to reintegrate completely before they start issuing in the overall market.
Hans, about 20 seconds. We got word that the Greek financial markets are going to reopen on August 3rd. What's your reaction?
It'll be an interesting shakeout. I think if you interpret where the financial the banks are going to trade, you probably are going to be 20-30% down. Most of the other companies, I don't know. It's going to be a bit shaky. I mean, there's not a lot of clarity in how this is working out.